Hey there, everybody. It's me, Flame. I'm back. How's it going? Uh, you may notice I do not have the root beer bottle today. That is because it is being washed. You might be wondering if that process takes a while. It does not. It just, you know what? Whatever. I don't have to justify the root beer bottle's existence to you guys. You may have noticed I haven't been putting out videos recently, and that is because, as I mentioned in my video that I made before this one, where I went over envy and greed, that I was recording that video on Sunday because I was having my wisdom teeth removed on Monday. It is currently Friday of that same week, late Friday night. Well, not late, 7:47. But regardless, I am here and I can confidently talk without accidentally biting the inside of my lip. So, yeah, today I'm back here to talk about the seven deadly sins, specifically th- the three different people who represent given sins across three different series. Those series being the Helliverse, Hell of a Boston Has Been Hotel, Seven Deadly Sins, and Full Metal Alchemist. That having been said, basically, I go through each character in each given sin and I give them a thing of they're the best, which means like a good person, worst, which can mean either they're a bad person who does a good representation or a bad representation, or the truest, which is just the best representation of the sin. That having been said, as I mentioned, we are going over sloth and lust today, so yeah, trigger warning in case that necessitates a trigger warning. But we will be starting off with sloth, and as usual, starting off with the worst, but not as usual. We will be going with a different thing in the worst slot. You guys, if you saw my last video, which at this point nobody has because it has no views on the envy and greed video, you would know that I've had kind of a pattern where the Hell of a Boss character is the worst, the Seven Deadly Sins character is the best, and the Full Metal Alchemist character is the truest. That formula is changing today. It is not it has never been a set in stone thing. It's just been kind of consistent. But today I break that mold because today the worst iteration of Sloth is Sloth from Full Metal Alchemist. Now, you might be wondering, uh, who is this woman? Apparently, it's Sloth from the Full Metal Alchemist, original Full Metal Alchemist anime from back in what, like 2003? Uh, yeah, I think 2003. But basically, this is like the final version. I assume this was like the made up version that Full Metal Alchemist had before like the rest of the Full Metal Alchemist manga came out. So like cuz Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is just considered to be more accurate to the manga. So in other words, big hulking guy is the real sloth, and he's not really slothful. Like he talks all this stuff about just wanting to go to bed, but anytime and every time we see him on camera, he is tirelessly working. Not to mention, he's tirelessly working for the goals of a sociopathic homunculus, and he has no moral quandary with any of it whatsoever. So, yeah, usually the Full Metal Alchemist characters gets the truest role, or up until now they have, and that's mostly been because there's been another character who is a worse person. there's not really another character that embodies Sloth who is provably a worse person than Sloth. With that having been said, no further justification. Sloth is in the worst spot. Now you might be wondering, who does that put in best? Well, I can't break the stereotypes in every respect. So, yeah, next up we have the best. And friendly reminder, this is my opinion, so you can disagree with me if you want. But in my opinion, the best person who is also an incarnation of Sloth is Fairy King Harlequin. Now, the thing with Seven Deadly Sins characters is they usually get, like, at least from me, they usually get the thing of this is the best person who also represents the sin, because a lot of the sins didn't actually commit the sins that they were accused of that got them their titles. I mean, that doesn't totally apply with King because his sin was inaction and he was responsible for inaction, but also he had amnesia most of the time and was completely unaware that one of his citizens was kind of committing genocide against a whole bunch of humans. But yeah, that having been said, he is generally a good person. Like he's done some things that are arguably very messed up, but morally speaking, he is probably the most morally correct out of the. That was a card shuffler, don't worry about it. He is probably one of the most morally correct out of just any of the characters who represent sins, and especially out of the ones that represent sloth. That having been said, he does somewhat embody sloth, but not to such an extent where I could call him a truest embodiment. That title, by process of elimination, goes surprisingly to the Hello Boss character, which we have very little information on, and that is Belphegor. Yes, this uh llama demon thing. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be llama, alpaca, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. We have limited to no information on Belphegor, but the limited to no information that we have about Belphegor, like we have nothing on her personality, nothing on what she does in her free time. We know she rules the Ring of Hell responsible for medicine, but aside from that, the only like personal experience we have with her is she fell asleep in the middle of a court hearing. Well, less of a court hearing, more of an execution trial. But yeah, we don't have anything to say whether she's provably bad or good person, morally speaking, but she does seem to be a considerably accurate representation of the sin of sloth. So, yeah, gonna be honest, I just didn't really have anywhere else to put her. That having been said, this is not the last sin that we are going to be talking about, because the next sin we are going to be talking about in this video is, as I said earlier, lust. And unfortunately I am and I mean I'm once again breaking the stereotype from the first two videos and the first three sins by doing a little something I call not having the Hell of a Boss character be the worst. That being said, the worst person, who is an incarnation of Lust, is, surprise, surprise, Lust from Full Metal Alchemist. Now, you might be wondering, dude, it's like conventionally attractive woman who is also Lady Deathstrike, and that's just kind of hot. Okay, for one thing, she is like Lust, generally speaking, is a bad person. but she's not here specifically because she's a bad person. Like, that's just kind of how she was made. Like, she's done some unrepentant murders, unrepentant crimes, and stuff like that. But she's not here just because she's a bad person. She's here because A, there's not a worse person who represents lust here, and B, there's not a person here who does a worse job of embodying lust. Fun thing is, uh, all of the other homunculi are known to be like homunculi who have the titles of sins because they behave in those sinful behaviors. Greed is greedy, sloth is slothful to a degree, pride is prideful, wrath is wrathful. Lust is not lustful. Probably because she gets her lust from the emotions of a homunculus. But in the end, she is not a person who has a lot of lust. She is a person who inspires others to be lustful through her beauty. That being said, that does not make her an effective representation of lust. Hate me all you want. I'm right by my own standards. Anyway, speaking of my own standards, I will be somewhat more so in line of following them when I place the person in the best category, and that for the sin of lust will be Gother from Seven Deadly Sins. I know it seems like I have a thing for the Seven Deadly Sins characters, but with Gother specifically, there's just not a better place I can put him. Because on the one hand, he is a person who has done some terrible things. On the other hand, he is a person who has done some pretty morally good things. And on the third hand, for the majority of the series, he was straight up lacking emotions. Like, the thing with Gother is he's not human. He's an artificial creation. He's a doll. So, he's a doll created by, give me a sec. This guy whose face I have made big. This is the guy who created the doll that would later be known as Gother. Funny enough, his name is also Gother. We don't have to get into Gother lore. I'm running out of time. Basically, Gother for the majority of the series was lacking his emotions, but he has done very morally good things. And best is not a measure of how good you are at representing the sin. It is a measure of how good of a person you are while still representing your sin. And to me, that equates to Gother. Because Gother may not be a very good interpretation of lust, but yeah. That having been said, I am running out of time and I have to get to the truest interpretation of lust, which, kind of surprisingly slash unsurprisingly, is Asmodeus. Now, Asmodeus in Hell of a Boss is probably the king of sin that we have the most information about. And given that large amount of information, we can ascertain one, he is a fan more so of consensual relationships and the nature of actually lusting as opposed to forcing yourself on someone. Asmodeus's general beliefs when it comes to lust is that it shouldn't be forced. It has to be earned by by means of genuine affection, which is very morally good and also very much in the realm of actual lust. Being lust is not acting sexually. Lust is wanting to act sexually with someone. That's kind of why it gets equated to like greed and gluttony as like the three uh wanting things, the three things that you want. Anyway, that is enough of me ranting about sins. I will see you guys in the next video, which will be yet another Delver video. And, yeah, have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys later.